Cleopatra. In 1963, 20th Century Fox released Cleopatra, a film that became the poster child for runaway production costs. Initially projected at around $5 million, the budget spiraled to over $44 million, setting a new record for the most expensive movie ever made at the time. For context, that figure surpassed even epics like Ben-Hur and Spartacus. The chaos began in London, where filming was halted after Elizabeth Taylor suffered a near-fatal case of pneumonia. Months of footage and millions of dollars were scrapped. The production then moved to Rome's Cinecittà Studios, where delays only multiplied. Taylor's contract, reportedly worth $1 million plus a percentage of the profits, was groundbreaking for the era, though not the first of its kind. Her repeated health setbacks forced reshoots and rewrites while tensions on set mounted. Off-screen, Taylor's affair with co-star Richard Burton, both married to others, fueled relentless tabloid coverage and even drew condemnation from the Vatican. Some speculate the scandal eclipsed the film itself in public interest. Despite topping the box office in 1963, Cleopatra fell far short of recouping its costs. Fox needed the film to earn nearly double just to break even. Instead, the studio was forced to sell over 180 acres of its backlot, a move that led to the creation of Century City in Los Angeles. Leadership at Fox was shaken up in the aftermath, and the studio spent years recovering. Historians often cite Cleopatra as a warning shot from the golden age of Hollywood excess, where unchecked ambition, personal drama, and financial miscalculation nearly sank a major studio. Rumors still swirl about whether the scandal was exploited to boost ticket sales, or if the film's collapse was inevitable from the start. Ben-Hur. By the late 1950s, MGM was bleeding money. The studio, once a titan of the golden age, was grappling with shrinking profits and the aftershocks of the Paramount Decree of 1948, which had stripped studios of their theater chains. In a high-stakes gamble, MGM funneled nearly $16 million into a single production, Ben-Hur. It was a colossal risk, especially for a studio already under pressure to stay afloat in a rapidly changing industry. The chariot race became the film's most infamous undertaking. Constructed at Cinecittà Studios in Rome, the arena took close to a year to build and spanned 18 acres. It required 78 horses and over 15,000 extras. Director William Wyler demanded realism, and second unit director Andrew Martin orchestrated the chaos with near-military precision. Stunt coordinator Yakima Canutt, a legend in his own right, engineered the sequence with such intensity that several stuntmen were injured. Despite rumors that someone died during filming, no fatalities occurred. Casting added more tension. Charlton Heston, already known for the Ten Commandments, eventually took the lead role, but not before several big names reportedly passed. Burt Lancaster allegedly rejected the part due to the film's religious themes, while Rock Hudson was said to have hesitated over the physical demands. Heston's involvement gave the project star power, but even that didn't guarantee success. Production was riddled with problems. Heavy rains flooded sets, delays mounted, and costs ballooned. Internally, some executives feared the film would never recoup its budget, and with every setback, whispers grew louder that MGM was betting the house on the single roll of the dice. Then came the release. Ben-Hur debuted in November of 1959 and raked in around $40 million domestically, $75 million worldwide. It swept 11 Academy Awards, tying a record that would stand for decades. Some speculate that had the film flopped, MGM might have collapsed under its own ambition. Instead, it bought the studio time and a place in cinematic history. Mutiny on the Bounty. In 1962, MGM's remake of Mutiny on the Bounty spiraled into one of the most expensive misfires of its era. What began as a $10 million project ballooned past $19 million, a staggering cost that rattled the studio's already shaky finances. The remote Tahiti shoot became a logistical nightmare, plagued by equipment failures, soaring transport costs, and endless delays. Marlon Brando, fresh off a string of critical hits, was at the center of the storm. Reports from the set paint a picture of a star increasingly unwilling to take direction, demanding constant script rewrites and clashing with cast and crew. Carol Reed, the film's original director, exited early in production, replaced by Louis Milestone, who stayed on to complete the chaotic shoot. One full-scale replica of the HMS Bounty had to be abandoned due to poor design, forcing MGM to construct a second ship at enormous cost. The final product, despite its sweeping visuals, failed to connect with audiences and critics, earning just over $13 million at the box office. While the film did receive 7 Academy Award nominations, its commercial performance was a letdown. MGM's financial picture darkened further, prompting a leadership shakeup and intensifying pressure on the studio's long-term stability. Some industry insiders whispered that the film nearly pushed MGM to the brink, though official records stopped short of confirming a bankruptcy threat. Still, the ordeal became a Hollywood cautionary tale. Legends persist that Brando's behavior on set became a case study in excess, referenced for years whenever a star's ego threatened to derail a production. Dr. Doolittle. Dr. Doolittle was supposed to be 20th Century Fox's big comeback, a lavish, family-friendly musical released in December of 1967. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of excess. With a production budget ballooning past $17 million, the film's costs spiraled thanks to over 1,000 live animals, elaborate set pieces, and a mechanical sea snail that reportedly cost hundreds of thousands alone. Rex Harrison, cast as the eccentric doctor, fueled on-set tensions with frequent demands for rewrites and rumors of clashing with co-stars. One persistent story claims he refused to work alongside Sammy Davis Jr., forcing a last-minute casting change. Meanwhile, delays mounted as animals misbehaved and scenes had to be reshot repeatedly. In a desperate bid to salvage the film's prestige, Fox allegedly poured over $600,000 into an aggressive Oscar campaign. The movie did earn 9 nominations and took home 2 statues, but the box office told a different story. Domestic earnings failed to crack $10 million. Coming just 4 years after the Cleopatra debacle, Dr. Doolittle pushed Fox to the financial brink once again. Industry insiders often point to this film as a symbol of the bloated, unsustainable studio system that collapsed in the late 1960s, hastened by antitrust rulings, television's rise, and a changing audience. Some speculate that Doolittle's failure helped usher in the end of Hollywood's golden age, making way for the leaner, more independent era that followed. The fall of the Roman Empire. In 1964, the fall of the Roman Empire hit theaters with a price tag that stunned the industry, nearly $19 million, an unheard of sum at the time. Produced by Samuel Bronston, the film was a sprawling historical epic with ambitions as grand as its title. Much of the budget went into building a massive replica of the Roman Forum in Spain, one of the largest outdoor sets ever constructed for a film. The lavish production also featured a cast stacked with marquee names: Sophia Loren, Alec Guinness, James Mason, and Stephen Boyd. While exact salary figures remain debated, some reports suggest Sophia's paycheck alone rivaled the cost of smaller films. Despite the scale, the film struggled to connect with audiences. Critics were divided. The New York Times dismissed it as a ponderous pageant, while Variety praised its spectacle but flagged its emotional void. The box office returns were dismal. Bronston's company filed for bankruptcy soon after, and although stories once claimed the fallout rattled major distributors, including Paramount, no clear evidence supports that. Still, the collapse of Bronston's empire became a cautionary tale. Some speculate this film's failure helped accelerate the decline of the sword and sandal craze, which had dominated Hollywood for over a decade. Combined with shifting audience tastes and the unraveling studio system, the fall of the Roman Empire became a symbol of how excess, even in ancient armor, could topple a modern studio. Paint Your Wagon. By the late 1960s, the Hollywood musical was on life support, and Paint Your Wagon nearly pulled the plug. Released in 1969 by Paramount Pictures, the film carried an eye-watering budget of roughly $18 million, a massive gamble at a time when the studio was already feeling financial strain. Based on the 1951 Broadway hit by Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Loewe, the film adaptation saw Lerner not only penning the lyrics but also adapting the screenplay. But what was meant to be a box office goldmine quickly spiraled into an expensive headache. Production delays in California's Sierra Nevada mountains, frequent rewrites, as well as unpredictable weather which inflated costs and derailed schedules. Director Joshua Logan, despite prior success with South Pacific, reportedly struggled to keep the production under control. Then came the puzzling casting. Clint Eastwood and Lee Marvin, 2 Western heavyweights, were handed singing roles. Marvin's gravelly solo, Wand'rin' Star, bizarrely topped the charts in the UK, but critics and audiences alike questioned the logic behind the musical experiment. Domestically, the film grossed only about $14.5 million, falling well short of profitability. Some insiders speculate that the project's bloated budget and lukewarm reception helped push Paramount toward a financial cliff, forcing the studio to rethink its blockbuster strategy. Legend suggests that Paint Your Wagon became a symbol of Hollywood's unchecked spending in the 60s, an era where spectacle often trumped strategy, until the new Hollywood wave demanded a leaner, grittier approach. Hello, Dolly. By the late 1960s, 20th Century Fox had already weathered two financial disasters, Cleopatra and Dr. Doolittle. So when the studio approved Hello, Dolly with a budget nearing $15 million, it sparked debate across Hollywood. That figure, adjusted for inflation, would top $100 million today, a staggering sum for a musical. The film's production spared no expense. Full-scale recreations of Gilded Age New York were constructed on the Fox backlot, including working trolleys and cobblestone streets. Costume designer Irene Sharaff, already a 5-time Oscar winner, outfitted the cast in hundreds of elaborate period ensembles. Behind the scenes, the project was plagued by delays, rewrites, and reshoots, pushing the schedule and costs far beyond initial estimates. Casting added more fuel to the fire. Barbra Streisand, only 26 at the time, was chosen to play Dolly Levi, a character traditionally portrayed by older actresses. Broadway fans had championed Carol Channing, who originated the role and was in her late 40s. Industry chatter suggested Streisand's recent success in Funny Girl gave her the edge, though filming began before she officially won the Oscar in April 1969. Tensions on set reportedly ran high. Stories circulated that co-star Walter Matthau clashed with Streisand, allegedly calling her difficult and questioning her casting, though neither party publicly confirmed the extent of their feud. When Hello, Dolly premiered on December 16, 1969, it arrived with massive expectations and a marketing push to match. It won 3 Academy Awards but fell short at the box office, earning just over $33 million domestically. After factoring in distribution and promotional costs, the studio saw little return. Some speculate that the film's underperformance signaled the beginning of the end for Hollywood's golden age of musicals. By the early 1970s, audience tastes had shifted, and big-budget song and dance spectacles were no longer guaranteed hits. The greatest story ever told. By 1965, United Artists had poured over $20 million into George Stevens' The Greatest Story Ever Told, an astronomical figure at the time, rivaling the cost of some of today's biggest blockbusters. The film assembled a sprawling biblical narrative, a cast packed with marquee names like Charlton Heston and Max von Sydow, and a director known for Oscar-winning prestige. On paper, it was a guaranteed hit. In reality, it became one of the most bloated miscalculations of the decade. Production sprawled across Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California, with Stevens reportedly obsessing over every frame. Crew members later claimed some scenes were reshot dozens of times, often under punishing desert weather. The director allegedly insisted on building full-scale sets for brief scenes, driving the budget up to an estimated $25 million. Rumors swirled that Stevens saw the project as a personal spiritual mission more than a commercial film, which only deepened tensions behind the scenes. When it finally hit theaters, the film's solemn tone and sluggish pace left critics cold. The New York Times called it a picture of dignity, but not of life. Audiences agreed. Domestically, it earned somewhere between $8 and $12 million, far below what was needed to break even. The financial blow hit United Artists hard, forcing the studio to rethink its appetite for prestige epics. Some speculate the film's failure symbolized the last gasp of Hollywood's biblical epic era, which had once been a box office goldmine with hits like Ben-Hur and The Ten Commandments. Others argue it was just one more victim of a studio system already unraveling under the weight of television, antitrust rulings, and shifting audience tastes. 55 Days at Peing. In 1963, Samuel Bronston's 55 Days at Peing arrived with all the spectacle of a historical epic, and all the financial baggage that came with it. With a budget reportedly exceeding $13 million, the film recreated the Boxer Rebellion with elaborate sets built in Spain, massive crowd scenes, and a star-studded cast including Charlton Heston, Ava Gardner, and David Niven. Bronston, riding high from previous successes like El Cid, spared no expense on authentic period details and sweeping battle sequences. However, the film's reception was lukewarm at best. Critics found the storytelling muddled despite the visual grandeur, and audiences failed to embrace what many saw as another overlong historical pageant. The box office returns were disappointing, earning roughly half its production cost domestically. This failure, combined with the concurrent disaster of the fall of the Roman Empire, effectively ended Bronston's ambitious run as an independent producer. The collapse of his production company became a cautionary tale about the risks of financing multiple expensive epics simultaneously. Some industry observers noted that 55 Days at Peking represented the tail end of the sword and sandal era, as audience tastes were already shifting toward more contemporary stories and intimate character studies. Rainree County. Rainree County, released in 1957, was MGM's high-stakes answer to Gone with the Wind, but the gamble nearly broke the bank. With a production budget of around $5.4 million, ballooning to $6 million with marketing, it was one of the most expensive films of its time. Directed by Edward Dmytryk and starring Elizabeth Taylor and Montgomery Clift, the film was plagued by off-screen complications before the cameras even rolled. Taylor suffered a serious spinal injury in early 1956 during the filming of Giant, not Rainree County, as the result of a horseback riding accident, delaying her availability. Clift, meanwhile, had barely survived a disfiguring car accident in May of that same year, just after leaving Taylor's home. His reconstructed face was partially obscured on screen using strategic lighting and camera angles, a detail that's become a point of fascination for film historians. Production dragged on, thanks in part to the demands of Technicolor, which required intense lighting and extended shoot times. Stories circulated that the studio spared no expense trying to hide Clift's injuries, further inflating costs. When it finally hit theaters, the film earned 4 Academy Award nominations, including one for Taylor, but failed to connect with audiences. Critics pointed to its sluggish pacing and overwrought melodrama. While Rainree County didn't single-handedly sink MGM, it arrived during a perfect storm. The studio was already bleeding from the effects of television, antitrust rulings, and shifting audience tastes. The film's underperformance only deepened the crisis. MGM soon began selling off assets, from its legendary backlot to iconic costumes, in a slow-motion unraveling. Some film insiders even whisper that Rainree County served as an unofficial warning sign, that the golden age of the studio system was cracking under its own weight. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.